Hi, welcome back to my channel. In my first video, I discussed what a Renaissance man is. We defined that. And we talked about why you might want to be a Renaissance man. And there are 5 characteristics. One more time. A Renaissance man is well-groomed, well-spoken, well-mannered, well-dressed, and has a well-rounded education. We talked about well-groomed in my last video. And today I'd like to talk about well-spoken. How do you become a well-spoken Renaissance man? Well, my thoughts are, let's start with accents. So, there was a time in this country where an accent was important. And you could certainly tell the difference between the accent of people from an upper class upbringing as opposed to a lower class upbringing. And I think it's not really such a big deal anymore. So with television and movies, we get to hear accents from different parts of the country all the time. And so this is kind of all melded together. So you would not consider someone with a southern accent to be stupid, uneducated, just because they have a southern accent. You would not consider someone from New England to be more educated because of their accent. Because, again, today, in today's world, we hear accents all the time. It doesn't really mean what it used to mean. So don't worry too much about your accent. Slang. Okay, slang can be a problem. If you're around family members or friends who use a lot of slang, and of course you want to fit in, so I think it's okay to use slang terms in those situations. There will be times when it will not be appropriate. If you're giving a lecture, a speech, if you're talking in front of a small group of business people, slang is something you probably want to avoid. So a couple of examples. How are you all doing? It's not a bad term, not a bad piece of slang, but and fine in most circumstances, but there'd be some circumstances when you would be better if you said, "How's everyone doing today?" So, ax. I can ax a question or I can ask a question. Again, there are times when you'll want to ax a question, depending on who you're speaking to, because you want to fit in with that group. But again, I would like you to be able to differentiate between when to do that and when not to do that. So think about the slang terms that you use out of habit and see if you can turn those off or on. It's a good mental exercise. Cursing. All right, cursing. Not very good in most circumstances. So cursing is a crutch for a weak mind, is how the phrase goes. So if people are losing an argument, they might start cursing because they don't have the intellectual capacity to follow through on their argument. Now, should you never curse? No, I didn't say that. Cursing can sometimes have a strong impact. I'll use myself as an example. I very seldom curse. So when I do, my friends or my family will know that something's up, that Ed's mad about something, and you better watch out. So if I cursed all the time, I wouldn't have that impact. So using those terms, those words, just periodically, when necessary, will have a much greater impact on your audience. Take, for example, you're in a grocery store, a mom and her kid, and little Johnny is not being good. Little Johnny is running around, he's grabbing things off the shelf, he's pushing the cart into people, and mom's yelling at him the whole time. "Johnny, you stop that, you're going to get in trouble. Johnny, stop that, I'm going to tell your dad. Johnny, stop that, when we get home, you're going to get it." Johnny doesn't listen because Johnny knows she doesn't mean it. She yells all the time, so that doesn't bother him. And she never follows through, so that doesn't bother him. So if she only raised her voice on occasion, and she did follow through every threat she made, little Johnny would be much better behaved. So that's how I feel about cursing as well. Use it when you need to, when you want that impact. But if you use it all the time, people will not pay attention at all. All right, so that's good. Okay, vocabulary. So to be well-spoken, you need to improve your vocabulary. A couple ways to do that. Some people decide to make it a habit to learn a new word every day. If you don't have a dictionary or a thesaurus, get one. I know you can look up most things on Google, but it's still a great tool to have a dictionary on hand or a thesaurus on hand. And page through there, point at a word you've never seen before, take a look at it, maybe write it down, maybe write down the definition, and then try to use it in conversation when you can. That'll improve your vocabulary. I took a slightly different route. It always annoyed me when I saw a word or heard a word that I did not recognize. A word in the English language that I did not recognize. That made me upset. So I would look it up as soon as I could. If I heard a word in a place where I can't say stop, let me go look this up. I just try to put it in my memory, and when I got home, I would find out the definition. Or if I'm reading a book or an article and I see a word that I don't recognize, right away I'll stop and I'll look that word up. That's how I approached it, and that certainly helped my vocabulary. And just again, it just annoyed me that there was a word in the English language that I speak, that the words that I did not recognize. So I wanted to fix that. And that really helps with your vocabulary. You want to increase your vocabulary to be well-spoken. Finally, I'd say find examples, find people you can watch and listen to, and try to emulate those people. A couple of people that come to mind, Jordan Peterson. If you don't know who Jordan Peterson is, he's all over YouTube and the internet. You want to watch and listen to anything that he produces. He's also written a couple books, very good books. But Jordan Peterson would be a good person to watch and listen to and emulate. Denzel Washington. So Denzel, a wonderful speaker. So I'm not talking about when he's acting in the movie, not the same thing. But if you ever see him give a lecture or a commencement speech, wonderful speaker. Be a good person to listen to and to emulate. Morgan Freeman, of course, what can you say about Morgan? Morgan Freeman has a voice like liquid gold. Again, very well-spoken man, very well-spoken gentleman. I've never met him, but this is what I think. In any case, he would be a very good person to listen to and to watch, and to perhaps emulate how he speaks in his speech pattern. Okay, we had a comment from the last video that I'd like to address, and it's about age. So does age have an impact on whether or not you are trying to be a Renaissance man? So, yeah, a little bit. I mean, you can be a young man and be a Renaissance man, or an older gentleman and be a Renaissance man. It's really not about age, but there's some differences. There might be some manners that you would handle a little differently. Certainly how you dress might be handled a little differently depending on your age. And I will try to remember to point those things out when we talk about those things. So age can have an impact on how you dress and how you behave. Minor differences, not major differences, minor differences. But again, we'll try to point those out as we go forward. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. I still intend to produce a video about once a week. So please hit the subscribe button and catch our next video. All right. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, and God bless.